The cold millionaire gives up first-class seat for a crying black woman and her baby. The jet engines roared like thunder as Charles Edward settled into the luxurious embrace of his first-class seat, the soft leather hugging him like an old friend. He fiddled with the shiny remote that controlled everything from the recline of his chair to the position of the ambient lighting above. But beneath the surface of this plush cocoon lay a heart burdened with solitude. The loss of his wife had wrapped him in a cloak of isolation, making the bustling world outside seem distant, almost unreal. His fingers tapped nervously against the armrest, longing for something, anything, to shake him from this numbness that clawed at his chest. Suddenly, a wail pierced the hushed elegance of the cabin. It was sharp, desperate, the sound of a mother at her wit's end. Charles looked up to see a young woman, Laura Miller, the CEO of a rising airline. Her face pinched with worry, a suitcase tumbled F. Charles felt an unexpected tug in his heart. Abandoning his comfortable haven, he stood, a rush of adrenaline compelling him forward. "Excuse me," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Would you like to, take my seat?" Shock rippled through the cabin. A cold millionaire giving up comfort for a crying woman and her child was not a sight often seen. Time slowed as Laura met his gaze, disbelief evident in her wide eyes. "Really?" she stammered, her voice a mix of gratitude and disbelief. In that moment, the world faded away. The noise of the plane and the judgmental stares melted into the background. She took a shaky breath, nodding slowly, and Charles directed her to his seat as she swayed gently with the baby against her shoulder. They sank into conversation, drawn together by their cloaked vulnerabilities. "I'm trying to launch a new connection program for my airline," Laura confessed, brushing back a strand of hair, her voice full of determination, yet laced with fatigue. Charles saw the twinkle of ambition in her eyes, even as the weight of her worries pressed down. "And I've been feeling lost since my wife passed," he admitted, each word a pebble tossed into the deep well of his grief. As they exchanged stories, laughter erupted between moments of raw honesty, a surprising spark igniting their souls amid the turbulence of their lives. Yet, unbeknownst to them, a rival executive lingered in the shadows, a predator eyeing their budding bond with disdain, ready to pounce on any sign of weakness for his own gain. Just as they began to outline their dreams for a program called Human Connection, the air shifted. A cold draft slipped through the cabin, raising goosebumps on Charles' arms. The flight attendants displayed tense smiles as gossip rippled through the first-class section. Would their connections survive the storm brewing within and around them? The answers lay just beyond the horizon, urgent and compelling. "Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without prior notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you are still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, from which city are you watching this? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact." As they shared their stories, the bond between Charles and Laura deepened. Each laugh, each sigh of understanding seemed to draw them closer, layering the tender threads of connection that had begun to weave between them. But then, just as they were about to exchange their ideas on Human Connection, a loud crash sliced through the cabin. The sound of metal on metal, followed by a sudden, jarring lurch. The lights flickered, momentarily plunging them into darkness before emergency lights sprang to life, casting a ghostly glow over the startled faces of the passengers. Gasps echoed as the plane shook violently. "What's happening?" Laura's voice trembled, eyes wide with fear, the baby cradled close. Charles instinctively reached out, a protective instinct surging through him. Before he could respond, the flight attendants rushed down the aisle, their calm demeanor betraying the panic that danced in their eyes. "Stay seated, remain calm," one shouted. But chaos unraveled around them. A woman clutched her husband's arm, her face a mixture of anxiety and whispers of turbulence mixed with excited chatter filled the cabin as the flight descended into disarray. As the lights stabilized, Charles glanced out the window. Dark clouds loomed angrily, lightning crackling in the distance. His heart raced. Something was very wrong. Suddenly, another jarring jolt struck the aircraft, sending a shrill cry through the cabin. A cacophony of fear soared, drowning out the engine roar. Instinctively, he held Laura tighter, feeling her tiny frame quake against him. The baby wailed louder, responding to the chaos swirling around them. Through the haze of anxiety, Charles made out a shadowy figure lurking near the back of first class. It was the rival executive, Jack Harmon. The man's eyes glinted with something darker, a grin etched across his face that sent a chill up Charles's spine. The distrust turned treacherous as Charles connected the dots of the unsettling weight that hung in the air. The plane's turbulence seemed to correlate with Jack's sinister smile. Was he responsible? Anxiety crashed in waves within Charles. What if Jack had sabotaged the flight? What if this was a calculated move? Tension froze the air. Travelers exchanged frantic looks of disbelief and fear. A scream erupted suddenly. Panic rushes, then silence. Laura gasped, clapping her hands over her mouth as they turned to find a passenger down. The woman who had been sitting in the row across from Charles now lay motionless, blood pooling around her. The flight attendants mobilized, but the focus on the bleeding woman brought a stillness that caught in Charles's throat. Laura's eyes filled with tears, shaking hands holding the baby closer as she peered at him, her expression shifting to one of dawning terror. This chaotic scene, a sudden spiral into horror, shattered the fragile bubble they had built just moments before. Their connection, now entangled in raw fear and tragedy, crackled with an unforeseen urgency. Charles turned back to Jack, seething, yet terrified. He felt something shift deep within him, a yearning for justice. Who was Jack really? The stakes had skyrocketed. Would they unearth the truth before the storm outside devoured them all? Would their fragile bond withstand the darkness now unleashed? In that moment, fate hung in the balance, and Charles realized that the answers lurking in the shadows were lingering, just beyond the horizon. Charles's heart raced as he stared back at Jack, who still lingered in the shadows, wearing that infuriating smirk. Was this man actually capable of what Charles feared? The plane jolted again, pushing them together with a violent shudder, and Charles felt Laura's grip tighten against him. "Stay calm," a flight attendant shouted, her voice strained, cutting through the chaos. The bleeding woman lay motionless, illuminated by the dim emergency lights. Charles swallowed hard, a lump forming in his throat. Suddenly, a loud cracking sound echoed through the cabin, like thunder crashing overhead. The lights flickered again, and the passengers gasped collectively. A tension-filled silence seized the moment, making every heartbeat feel amplified. "What was that?" Laura whispered, fear flashing across her face. Before Charles could grasp the gravity of the situation, the cabin door flew open, flinging itself against the wall with a deafening bang. Chilling wind rushed in, wrapping around his legs like icy fingers, threatening to whisk him away. In a split second, a tall figure rushed in, shrouded in darkness, silhouetted against the stark light from the emergency exit. Gasps erupted around the cabin. Someone shouted, "Who are you?" Panic erupted as passengers scrambled back, looking for safety. "Everyone stay calm," the figure yelled, the voice eerily familiar. A shiver crawled up Charles's spine as recognition dawned. It was Claire, his late wife's sister. Why was she here now? "Claire," he called out, disbelief slicing through him. "What are you doing on this flight?" Her eyes darted around, catching the tension, and a mixture of fear and urgency twisted her features. "I need to warn you, it's not safe, Jack." But before she could finish her sentence, Jack sprang from the shadows, eyes blazing as he lunged toward her. "You shouldn't have come here," he spat, rage spilling from his lips. Time froze. The passengers gasped again, a collective intake of breath shared in disbelief. "Stay back!" Claire shouted, holding her hands up to fend him off. Questions raced through Charles's mind like a wild animal. Why was Jack after her? What had she uncovered? And then, just as the situation teetered on the edge of chaos, Laura's baby began to wail again, an ear-splitting cry adding to the discord. It tore through Charles's heart. Could they really handle this? But amidst the tumult, a small flicker of hope sparked. This was all happening for a reason. "Charles," Claire hissed, her voice frantic, "you need to listen. The truth about your wife. There's so much you don't know." A piercing scream cut through her words, and everyone turned instinctively. One of the flight attendants had collapsed, blood pooling beneath her. Panic consumed the cabin. Passengers shrieked, rushing away from the chaos, hearts pounding louder than the plane's engines. Amid the chaos, Charles's stomach twisted, the air thick with fear. Everything was unraveling. His grief, his new connection with Laura, the mysteries surrounding his late wife. What truth was Claire about to share? "Jack, what did you do?" Charles roared, scrambling to protect Laura and the baby, the edges of his mind fraying. But Jack was grinning. "You really think you're gonna save her? You have no idea what's at stake." In that moment, reality shifted. Everything Charles believed was upended. The connections he thought he'd begun with Laura, the shared struggles, they all felt like a fragile dream, teetering on the brink. As Jack charged toward Claire, eyes blazing with a fierce predatory glow, Charles's instincts kicked in. "No," he shouted, lunging forward. But everything blurred together, chaos, horror, and an unexplainable urgency. Would truth finally emerge from this madness? Or would everything they cared about collapse under the weight of dark secrets and unspoken betrayals? And as the storm brewed outside, the storm within was just beginning. As Jack lunged toward Claire, time felt like it slowed, the tension thick enough to slice through. Charles's heart pounded in his chest as he rushed forward, adrenaline roaring in his ears. Laura gasped, clutching the baby tighter against her. But in that moment of chaos, everything became a blur. Jack reached for Claire, anger flashing in his eyes. "You shouldn't have come here," he shouted, a sneer twisting his face. Just then, another loud crash echoed behind them. The back door flew wide, gusting an icy wind that whipped through the cabin. "What the hell?" someone screamed as the cabin shook violently. "Get away from her!" Charles yelled, pushing through the mayhem. He could see the panic in Claire's eyes, mixed with fear and urgency. In the chaos, something unexpected happened. A push from within the cabin sent Charles stumbling. He turned back just in time to see a flash of silver. A knife glinted in Jack's hand as he lunged forward, aiming for Claire. "You're too late," Jack hissed. Charles felt a surge of panic. Everything ceased to matter except for Claire's safety. Time shuddered as Charles threw himself into the path, adrenaline and desperation clashing within him. He felt the cold steel scrape his side as he collided with Jack. A furious grappling ensued, the two men locked in a violent clash amid the utter chaos. Behind them, Laura's shock turned into action. "Get help!" she shouted to the other passengers, her voice rising above the tumult. Relief flickered momentarily as flight attendants rushed forward. their expressions a blend of shock and determination. The others looked on, fear etched on their faces, whispers soaring through the cabin as they backed away. A woman's low voice quivered. "What is happening?" A parent clutched their child tight, eyes wide with disbelief. But the fight was far from over. The knife clattered to the floor as Claire managed to grab Jack's arm, twisting it away. The cabin was a whirlwind of chaos, and just when it felt like things couldn't get worse, an urgent alarm blared through the plane, a loud, shrill reminder of the danger they all faced. Then, amidst the chaos, came an unexpected sound, a soft, muffled cry that rose like a ghost from the depths of the storm. Everyone froze, attention shifted. It was the baby's voice, but it sounded different, heart-wrenching, anguished. A few passengers gasped, eyes darting toward Laura as her face turned pale. "Laura!" Charles shouted, the weight of fear slamming down on him. "What's wrong with the baby?" And then, in a shocking turn, Laura dropped to her knees. She stared at the baby, terror stretched across her features. "No, no, it can't be." Her hands shook violently as she cradled the child. "What? What is it?" Charles felt his chest tighten. The baby squirmed, and a look of horror cascaded over Laura's face. He's not mine," she cried, voice breaking. I didn't know." The words hung heavy in the air, the revelation crashing like thunder. The baby wasn't hers? Confusion swept the cabin as shock soaked into everyone present. A dark laugh erupted from Jack. "Did you really think you could run from the truth?" he sneered, eyes glimmering with malice. Charles's mind raced. Everything Laura had shared, all the moments exchanged, it was a lie? The connection they built in the chaos now felt like shards of glass. Tension ignited between them, every bond tested in an instant. "Who is that baby?" Charles's voice was low, demanding. "What truth?" Laura gasped, fear clouding her eyes. "I didn't know, I swear," she cried, tears glimmering on her cheeks. In that moment, the gravity of their fragile connection shattered amid the fresh pain. Relationships spiraled. Secrets bled into the open. As the plane rocked violently around them and passengers lurched back, nothing felt safe anymore. The storm outside raged on, but the storm inside was infinitely worse. What had been revealed left a painful ache in Charles's chest. "What does it mean?" he whispered, staring into Laura's frightened eyes. And above the chaos, one thought echoed louder than the alarm. Could anything ever be truly trusted again? The future now lay shrouded in shadows, and the truth remained just out of reach. As Charles stared into Laura's fearful eyes, a cold wave of uncertainty swelled in his chest. Jack's menacing laugh echoed in his ears, a dark reminder of danger that loomed so closely. The chaos around them faded into a muted backdrop, replaced by the pulse of his own heartbeat, each thud resonating with the disbelief he felt. But just as the weight of the moment pressed down, the baby shifted in Laura's arms, a soft whimper breaking through. "Laura, we need to figure this out. What do you mean he's not yours?" Before she could answer, another violent shudder rolled through the plane, rattling overhead compartments. Then, like the crack of thunder above, a voice blared from the cockpit, shaking the very foundation of their uncertainty. "Emergency! Prepare for immediate descent!" The announcement sliced through the cabin, sending shockwaves of dread rippling through the passengers. The flight attendants sprang back to their posts, urgency replacing their earlier calm. "No, no, no," Charles muttered, his mind racing. They were losing control. Were they crashing? As panic rose, he caught a look of deep-seated fear spreading among the passengers. A mother clutched her child tighter, tears streaming down her face. The electric fear crackled, filling the air with despair. "Hold on, everyone," a flight attendant shouted, her voice strained, but it did little to quell the storm brewing within the cabin. Suddenly, the airplane dipped sharply, a gut-wrenching plunge that sent passengers scrambling. screams erupting like grenades in the confined space. And then, in the chaos, Claire stumbled forward, her eyes wild with panic. "Jack, you need to stop this. It's not just a plane." She gasped between breaths, her words sharp like daggers. Charles turned to her. "What do you mean?" He hardly registered the question. He needed clarity amidst this swirling madness. But Jack's posture shifted, the sneer morphing into a frown. "What are you talking about?" he snapped, his facade crumbling under pressure. Just then, Laura's baby began to cough, the sound thick and choked, drawing everyone's attention like a magnet. "Oh God, please," Laura cried out, desperation tightening her voice. She frantically patted the baby's back, fear melting into pure panic. And then, the unexpected happened. The baby projectile vomited, a spray of milky fluid arcing through the air, splattering onto Claire. Everyone gasped. The shock was palpable. But as Laura recoiled, horrified, something flickered behind Claire's eyes, a recognition, a dawning horror. "Wait!" Claire shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. "This can't be!" And that's when it hit everyone like a freight train. The realization spread through the cabin, unspooling like unraveling thread. Charles's breath caught in his throat. "What the hell, Claire? What's going on?" Her face blanched as she staggered backward. He's not just any baby," she exclaimed, her face twisted in a mix of fear and guilt. He's your son, Charles." Silence fell like a heavy blanket, clamping over the cabin. Laura's hands trembled above the baby, her eyes wide with disbelief and a flicker of horror. "No, it can't be," she whispered, shaking her head. "Your wife was pregnant when she died," Claire continued, each word dripping with urgency. "They hid it. They thought it was best. But somehow, he's here. He's your son." Never-ending questions banged against the walls of Charles' mind. His heart raced, as if a stampede surged through his chest. The truth sliced deeper than any chaos within the plane, unraveling everything he thought he understood. Hope, despair, and uncertainty bled into a single moment, leaving everyone gasping. Could it be true? Could this baby, now wailing in distress, be the missing piece of his heart? The stakes had never been higher. But now, with secrets unveiled, a deeper storm was brewing, demanding answers. How would they navigate this new reality? As the plane descended further into chaos, Charles felt time slip away, and a chilling thought lingered. Was this a blessing or a curse? And above the crashing sounds, the very heart of their lives hung in the balance. As the truth hung in the air, heavy and surreal, Charles felt the ground shift beneath him, like the airplane itself teetering on the edge. His mind raced, grappling with the weight of Claire's revelation. "Your son, Charles," echoed in his ears, drowning out the chaos around them. Laura's face twisted with confusion as she looked between him and the baby, her whole world crumbling at the seams. "No, this can't be," she whispered, eyes wide, trembling hands still cradling the child. "It can't be." But Claire's eyes were fierce, desperate. "He's the last part of her, Charles. She never told you, but I thought you deserved to know. They weren't just hiding the baby. They were—" Before she could finish, another deafening jolt shot through the cabin. Alarms blared, red lights flashed, painting frantic, flickering shadows on the walls. Instinctively, passengers clutched their seats, eyes darting toward the parents absorbing the truth. With a sudden and terrifying force, the cabin door dropped open again, a stark backdrop against the frenzied light. Standing at the threshold was an imposing figure, a man with wild eyes and a frantic look that filled the cabin with dread. Charles squinted, stunned. It was an airline marshal he'd seen before, known for rigorous safety checks. "Code red, everyone stay." But his warning was drowned out by screams as a surge of wind rushed in, pulling loose items toward the gaping void. A child shrieked, echoing the chaos as passengers fell back, panic setting ablaze. "Stay down!" the marshal shouted, rushing into the cabin. "We have an emergency. Everyone brace for—" Then, without warning, a thunderous explosion rattled the aircraft like it was nothing more than a leaf in a storm. The chaos erupted in a split second. The sound shell-shocked them all, ripping through the noise, igniting fear that spread like wildfire. The cabin lights blinked menacingly as debris rained from the ceiling. In those harrowing seconds, amidst the pandemonium, everything changed. Charles turned to Laura, horrified. "Get the baby." But as he reached for them, Laura's terrified expression morphed. She gasped, then slumped against her seat, dropping the child. Time surged forward again, a brutal wave crashing over him. He lunged, catching the baby just before he hit the floor. But within that moment of relief, Charles saw the truth lay shattered before him. The baby wasn't just a piece of the past. It was tied to secrets darker than he could fathom. Then, low whispers echoed through the cabin. "He's with them. He's not safe," someone murmured, glancing nervously at the marshal. "Get back!" the marshal shouted. But chaos warred against order. The air was thick with fear. Everyone felt it. Every breath became harder. Suddenly, Laura raised her eyes, filled with a wild fury Charles had never seen. "You lied! You were part of it!" she yelled at Claire, who recoiled. "This baby, this is the reason you're here. What are you hiding?" "No," Claire's voice cracked, desperation etched on her features. "It's not what you think. I tried to protect." But just then, another explosion rocked the plane. And the emergency lights flickered again before everything went dark. Silence pierced through the cacophony, and then an eerie calm settled. Strange, but chilling. Out of nowhere, a soft voice broke the silence, wrapping around them. It was the baby. "Mama." The word was innocent, yet devastating. It echoed in the dark like a confession. Everyone froze. And then Charles realized. Was the baby calling for someone? Who was truly the mother? A single flashlight beam flicked on, illuminating Jack where he stood, cackling triumphantly amidst the debris. Did you really think you could escape your fate? The truth is, it's all connected. Every word he uttered felt like a dagger, slicing deeper into the knot of confusion and dread. You've been played. None of this is what it seems. The air thickened with tension. Survival flickered on the horizon, but their reality was crumbling. Charles' heart raced, and chaos lurked in every corner. What secrets lay behind Jack's tongue? What twisted fates were intertwined? And as the plane spiraled toward unimaginable danger, one thought stole breath from his lungs. Who was safe, and what truly united them in this storm? As the hysteria stretched around them, Charles felt his heart racing, thumping wildly against his ribcage. Jack's mocking voice resonated in the dim light, entwining with the chaos and dread swirling among the passengers. The baby's cries filled the air, raw and desperate, merging seamlessly with the frantic warnings. He lifted the child closer, feeling the fragile weight in his arms, as if the truth were slipping through his fingers. "Please listen to me." Claire's voice broke through the haze, but her urgency was drowned out by Jack's laughter, a twisted symphony of malice. "You think you can save anyone here? You're all just pawns in a game far bigger than you can imagine." "Shut up," Laura shouted, spitting venom. "You're a monster." She held the baby close, face pale, eyes wide with fear and anger. A sudden realization erupted inside Charles. "What game, Jack? What do you know?" he bellowed, feeling the desperate need for answers pierce his chest like a jagged knife. But Jack's expression shifted, darkening. "It's not just a game, Charles. It's your life, your entire family's life at stake. But you're too late. The truth lurks in shadows. You'll never escape it." Just then, a blinding flash erupted outside, illuminating the cabin in sharp relief. The plane shook again, sending passengers tumbling. Panic surged like a wave, drowning out reason. People screamed, clutching their seats, some praying, others clutching their loved ones, fear clinging like a heavy fog. Chaos swallowed Charles' words whole. He turned to grab Laura's hand, to show unity in the face of the chaos. But as he reached out, a sudden explosion pierced the air. A blaze erupted from the rear of the plane, flames licking the walls and pushing a wave of heat into their faces. "Fire!" someone shrieked, and the turmoil spiraled deeper into madness. Amidst the panic, Jack lunged forward, pushing past Charles with a swift motion. He grabbed Claire, shoving her toward the opening door. "We're out, now!" "Jack, stop!" Claire cried, scrambling away. "You're not leaving me behind!" In that frantic moment, Jack turned to face them all, eyes glimmering like shards of ice. "You still don't understand. The baby holds the key to everything. It's not just survival, it's freedom." He flung open the door wider, the howling wind tearing through the plane as he pulled Claire closer. "Jack, no!" Charles felt desperation clawed his throat as he lunged, but then everything went dark. The lights flickered and surged, a violent pulse that left him reeling. And then, suddenly, silence fell. The chaos quieted as if the storm outside had paused just to let this moment breathe. In the hush, Claire turned, her face ashen. "Charles, please, I didn't want you to find out this way," she whispered, her voice wavering. And then, without warning, Jack pushed Claire out of the door. "Go!" he shouted, and in a horrifying twist, she vanished into the wind. "No!" Charles screamed, but it was too late. He stumbled toward the opening, heart pounding with disbelief. Laura gasped, holding the baby tighter against her chest. "What just happened? What did he do?" she choked out, eyes brimming with tears. But in that moment of shock, everything shimmered strangely. The toddler in Laura's arms seemed to react to the absence of Claire. His wails shifted, morphing into a pleading tone. He reached out small arms, as if sensing a new absence. "Wait!" Charles felt a chill crawl down his spine. This wasn't just a baby. Something deeper brewed beneath the surface, something he couldn't yet grasp. Amid the tension wrapped around them, a light flickered in the corner. Something shifted. The baby's eyes glinted with an unsettling intensity. "Charles, he's in danger," Laura whispered, backing away. The fragile air thickened as colors twisted like shadows around them. And then it hit him, a realization like a tidal wave. This wasn't just a baby caught in a plane crash. This was a key, a tie to everything, a link to secrets he would never have believed. As he locked eyes with Laura, and the chaos gave way to a deeper silence, he couldn't shake the haunting truth. The past and the present were converging, the shadows of their lives intertwining tragically. "What have we done?" he breathed, fear coiling tighter around his chest. The urgency to flee warred against his urge to protect, and standing on the precipice of calamity, he realized everything he knew was about to shift painfully, irrevocably, like the plane itself hurtling toward an unknown fate. Would this baby be their salvation or their doom? Uncertainty loomed like the storm outside, leaving questions hanging, desperate for answers that threatened to unravel the very fabric of their lives. As the truth hung in the air, heavy and surreal, Charles felt the ground shift beneath him, like the airplane itself teetering on the edge. His mind raced, grappling with the weight of Claire's revelation. "Your son, Charles," echoed in his ears, drowning out the chaos around them. Laura's face twisted with confusion as she looked between him and the baby, her whole world crumbling at the seams. "No, this can't be," she whispered, eyes wide, trembling hands still cradling the child. "It can't be." But Claire's eyes were fierce, desperate. "He's the last part of her, Charles." She never told you, but I thought you deserved to know. They weren't just hiding the baby. They were... Before she could finish, another deafening jolt shot through the cabin. Alarms blared, red lights flashed, painting frantic, flickering shadows on the walls. Instinctively, passengers clutched their seats, eyes darting toward the parents absorbing the truth. With a sudden and terrifying force, the cabin door dropped open again, a stark backdrop against the frenzied light. Standing at the threshold was an imposing figure, a man with wild eyes and a frantic look that filled the cabin with dread. Charles squinted, stunned. It was an airline marshal he'd seen before, known for rigorous safety checks. "Code red, everyone stay." But his warning was drowned out by screams as a surge of wind rushed in, pulling loose items toward the gaping void. A child shrieked, echoing the chaos as passengers fell back, panic setting ablaze. "Stay down," the marshal shouted, rushing into the cabin. "We have an emergency. Everyone brace for..." Then, without warning, a thunderous explosion rattled the aircraft like it was nothing more than a leaf in a storm. The chaos erupted in a split second. The sound shell-shocked them all, ripping through the noise, igniting fear that spread like wildfire. The cabin lights blinked menacingly as debris rained from the ceiling. In those harrowing seconds, amidst the pandemonium, everything changed. Charles turned to Laura, horrified. "Get the baby." But as he reached for them, Laura's terrified expression morphed. She gasped, then slumped against her seat, dropping the child. Time surged forward again, a brutal wave crashing over him. He lunged, catching the baby just before he hit the floor. But within that moment of relief, Charles saw the truth lay shattered before him. The baby wasn't just a piece of the past. It was tied to secrets darker than he could fathom. Then, low whispers echoed through the cabin. "He's with them. He's not safe," someone murmured, glancing nervously at the marshal. "Get back!" the marshal shouted. But chaos warred against order. The air was thick with fear. Everyone felt it. Every breath became harder. Suddenly, Laura raised her eyes, filled with a wild fury Charles had never seen. "You lied! You were part of it!" she yelled at Claire, who recoiled. "This baby, this is the reason you're here. What are you hiding?" "No," Claire's voice cracked, desperation etched on her features. "I tried to protect," but just then, another explosion rocked the plane, and the emergency lights flickered again before everything went dark. Silence pierced through the cacophony, and then an eerie calm settled, strange but chilling. Out of nowhere, a soft voice broke the silence, wrapping around them. It was the baby. "Mama." The word was innocent, yet devastating. It echoed in the dark like a confession. Everyone froze, and then Charles realized, was the baby calling for someone? Who was truly the mother? A single flashlight beam flicked on, illuminating Jack where he stood, cackling triumphantly amidst the debris. Did you really think you could escape your fate? The truth is, it's all connected. Every word he uttered felt like a dagger, slicing deeper into the knot of confusion and dread. You've been played. None of this is what it seems. The air thickened with tension. Survival flickered on the horizon, but their reality was crumbling. Charles's heart raced, and chaos lurked in every corner. What secrets lay behind Jack's tongue? What twisted fates were intertwined? And as the plane spiraled toward unimaginable danger, one thought stole breath from his lungs. Just then, the baby let out a string of soft, confident words that stopped everyone in their tracks. "I'm not who you think I am," he said in a clear voice that resonated through the cabin. Perfectly articulate, yet impossibly young. "What?" Charles gasped, clutching the child like a lifeline. The room erupted in disbelief, surprised murmurs sparking up among the passengers. Laura's eyes widened. "You can't be serious. Babies can't talk." But there was urgency in the child's tone, a knowing that sent chills down his spine. "I know everything," the baby continued, his little features unwavering. "About my mother, about the times you thought you lost her. She wasn't just my mother, she was your wife's sister too." Confusion spiraled as they processed the impossible. Jack's grin faltered. This isn't happening. The weight of the revelation crashed down upon them, a tidal wave of shock. Every word poured truth into the chaos like a flood, fraying the edges of their sanity. Charles blinked, trying to wrap his mind around the impossibility. "Who are you?" he finally managed, voice shaking, heart hammering. The baby smirked, defiance shining in his gaze. "I'm the reason you're all here, and I hold the key to your future and your past." The cabin shuddered violently, crashing down around them, but their focus remained locked on the child, a living enigma amidst the chaos, reshaping everything they believed. As the plane lurched again, alarms blared around them. One thought lingered, a resounding echo in the storm. What other secrets would the child unveil? And as they stood on the brink of destruction, they could only question what kind of future lay ahead when the past refused to die. The baby's unexpected words hung in the air, a triumphant burst among the chaos. The passengers stared, mouth agape, disbelief etched across each face. "I'm the reason you're all here," he repeated, voice steady as it cut through the cacophony of alarms and fear. Charles clutched the child tighter, heart racing. How can you know all this?" Confusion wrapped around him, tightening like a vice. He needed answers, immediate answers. "Because," the baby leaned closer, gaze piercing, "I'm part of your family, and I know your past." The urgency in the air shifted, crackling with electric tension. Jack, feeling threatened, took a step forward. "No, you're lying!" His expression faltered, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. But the baby just smiled, those innocent eyes holding a storm of secrets. "It's all connected. Your wife, my mother, she had a sister, and she wanted to keep me safe. But the truth is..." He paused. The room fell completely silent. Even the blaring alarms faded into a muffled whisper. "Your turn," and the lodge barracks echoed from below. No one could breathe. The airplane rocked on its axis, tilting dangerously. People grabbed seats, clutching whatever they could find. Panic surged and screams erupted around them. With a swift motion, the baby's voice rang out again, now commanding, "Stop, all of you!" And just like that, a strange wind pooled around them. It felt like an invisible force, wrapping itself around Charles, Laura, and the baby. Everyone else froze, awestruck. "This is why I was born," the baby continued, voice echoing like thunder. "I can help you face him, face what's coming." Before anyone could process the words, a blinding light erupted from the child, enveloping the cabin in a white-hot glow. Charles shielded his eyes, while Laura gasped, her expression twisting from shock to terror. The light dimmed, and the plane lurched one last time. Suddenly, the walls of reality shifted. Everyone gasped as they found themselves hovering above a sprawling landscape, not in the plane anymore, but suspended in a place drenched in surreal colors. The baby hovered like a tiny sun in the center. "This is the truth," he proclaimed, gaze fixed on Jack. "Not just a flight. Your whole life has been a trap. You need to see." Jack snarled, eyes narrowing. "What trickery is this?" In response, the baby lifted his tiny hands. A whirlwind of memories swirled around them, each flash revealing hidden truths and betrayals. Images of families torn apart, connections forged in secrecy, and darkness lurking in the shadows. Charles felt the pain of every lost moment pierce through him. His heart ached as he watched images of Claire, his wife, and her sister, their intertwined lives playing out beneath the surface of his vision. A scream escaped his lips as the fragments fell into place. "This can't be real!" Laura yelled, shaking her head, tears streaming down her face. But the baby's face softened, a strange compassion shining through innocent features. "It is real. You must face your past to move forward," he urged. Suddenly, an unbearable weight pressed down on them. Leaving every soul breathless, Jack lunged forward, an animalistic rage glowing in his eyes. "No, you won't take my power. I am the master here." Fear gripped Charles. Would Jack try to destroy them all? The baby glowed brighter, a beacon of hope against the encroaching darkness. But then, everything changed in an instant. Jack's expression warped, shifting backward into something unrecognizable. A dark shadow seeped from him, rushing forth like a torrent. "No, no, no!" Charles shouted, caught in the crossfire. The world around them exploded, shattered into a kaleidoscope of anguish and light. What lay beneath this new reality? Who was telling the truth? And more importantly, what had they unleashed upon themselves? With a stunning clarity, they realized nothing in their lives would ever be the same again. As the light pulsed and shifted around them, Charles felt a rush of emotions: fear, disbelief, anger, and an odd sense of hope. The baby's words echoed in his mind, intertwining with memories of his late wife. "He's not who you think he is." Those words haunted him, but the child's truth illuminated the shadows of uncertainty. "Enough!" Jack roared, furious and desperate. He lunged toward the baby, eyes filled with rage. The child's glow seemed to swell, a beacon of purity in the chaos, pushing back against the darkness Jack radiated. Without hesitation, Charles stepped forward, instinct igniting within him. "Protect him!" he yelled, body vibrating with necessity. He could feel Laura's presence beside him, an unwavering support in the face of fear. In that moment, the atmosphere surged with intensity. The plane lurched again, threatening to pull them down. But the baby held steady, his shimmering glow brightening. "You have the power to push back the darkness," he proclaimed, voice steady, echoing in the tumult. Laura took a deep breath, fueled by adrenaline. "We can do this, together," she shouted, holding the baby closer, her determination shining through the chaos. Her words roared like a storm, rallying the passengers. Hands reached for one another, grasping tightly, solidarity emerging amid fear. With that strength, the passengers stood together, forming a protective circle around Charles, Laura, and the baby. Jack's facade cracked beneath the surge of unity. "You think you can fight me?" he spat, eyes narrowing. The darkness swirling within him faltered against their collective light. Then the baby raised his tiny hands again, his voice weaving through the air like an incantation. "We are more than the shadows of our past." The light enveloped them, cascading waves of warmth washing over the group in a brilliant spectacle, an embrace of truth shattering the falsehoods that bound them. In a climatic moment, Jack screamed as the darkness exploded outward, dissipating into the ether. The force of the explosion shook the plane, windows rattling as the wild lights danced around them, illuminating the terrified yet awestruck faces of every passenger. Time seemed to stand still. As the dust settled and silence reclaimed the cabin, an indescribable relief flooded the air. Jack lay defeated, shadows dispersing like wisps of smoke, while the passengers slowly looked around, overwhelmed yet hopeful. Breathlessly, Laura smiled down at the baby, her heart swelling. "You did it," she whispered, tears of joy sparkling in her eyes. "You helped us." Charles felt a weight lift from him, a profound realization washing over him. This child was not just a symbol, but a gift, a chance to rewrite the darkness of their past. Something shifted deep within him. It was the first step toward healing. As the plane steadied in the air, they embraced the new dawn together. And they all turned to face the window, glittering sunlight pouring through the scattered clouds. A glimpse of the future shimmered just beyond. But lingering questions still hung in the air. What lay ahead for them? What would become of Jack? Would the shadows ever truly fade? A bittersweet sense of uncertainty loomed, but amidst it all was a budding hope, not just for survival, but for connection. And as the landscape unfolded beneath them, one truth echoed louder than the rest. Together, they could face whatever lay ahead. Now, before you go, there's something crucial. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming exclusive stories that are about to unfold. Smash that like button now to boost the algorithm and show your support. Don't wait 1 second more to share this video. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't forget to share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to know this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of backing the channel with these actions.